deep into the season as we pass the halfway point. There are many battles to be fought and 2 races around the corner. It's the formation lap here at Oulton Park, and we are live for the TSRC PC GT3 Series on the JP Broadcasting channel. And to take you through all of the sprint action is myself, Kelsey Gill, Zach Sweeney alongside, and of course Keon Sharp, the man behind the cameras. We're at Oulton Park, which is a fast, technical thrill ride of a circuit that punishes the inconsistent, destroys the complacent, and is a perfect venue for a sprint race. I think, Zach, we are going to be in for 2 fantastic races with a circuit like this.
Absolutely inspiring the passion with that one, Kelsey. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. Again, we're past the halfway point, and well, it's been one of the most competitive seasons to date, in all fairness. And you know, when you look to Sir Smokey, who's quite far down in the championship, sort of 5th or 6th, and he's finished in the top 5 every single race, 5th, 4th, and 4th, and he's sat P6 in the championship. That's when you know the strength of field is so ridiculously high. And when it comes to the sprint format, each of the 3 fields reversed around a circuit as good as Oulton Park, absolutely this is going to be 2 crackers.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be, Zach, and like you say, each of the grids is going to be sort of split into their own sort of formed grid, along with the whole lot, with all of it reversed from points. So Paul Angel is going to be leading the pros around, then you've got Giuseppe Zampieri leading your silvers around the circuit as well, with Wells leading around the AMs. And well, Zach, this is going to be quite the thrill ride, I think. The Oulton Park is such a narrow circuit with corners that just come at you. And like I said before, it was a circuit that is really going to punish those mistakes. And mistakes in a race like this, Zach, are going to be absolutely crucial.
Absolutely, it is going to separate the good from the great. Obviously, Oulton Park, anyone in tune with UK motorsports know how fantastic of a circuit it is. Recently held the inaugural rounds of the GB3 and the GB4 championship a few weeks ago, and well, what crackers of a race they were. I mean, it was just sensational. You can take anything around Oulton Park, touring cars, GT machineries, lower Formula single seaters, and it will just work. Today, of course, we have our very fantastic GT field out there. I think the British GT were at Oulton Park not too long ago as well, so maybe another spell of GT3 action here for Oulton Park. But it's narrow, the grass is everywhere, it's undulating, it's up, down, the corners, how you've got the slow speeds, the high speeds, the mid speeds, it's got absolutely everything, and it's just historic. The corner names and everything, fans come to love it. And I'm sure today is going to be absolutely no different. And Volodya leading the way. Hopefully we can see a good result from the Estonian, because we haven't really, unfortunately, seen much of him so far.
No, we haven't at all. And well, this evening he's got a bit of a qualifying ban looming over him a little bit later. So we'll see how he gets on. This race will be important for him this evening. And you may also be wondering, where is Josh Millington? He's having a race ban this evening. He's got himself too many penalty points. Naughty from Millington there. You don't want to be doing that too much, but God, the tension is already building up, Zach. We've got a few less cars on the grid than we would have liked, and at Oulton Park already sort of being a bit of a... what's the word I'm looking for? Being a bit intimidating for the drivers, I think, already, without us even going green racing. And it looks like we're lining up 2 by 2 abreast. What do you reckon that the results of this sprint race are going to be before we get started, Zach?
I'm going to go Striker, Chumley, and Wright the podium for the pros. But in 25 minutes, we'll all find out.
Right then, here we go. Coming around turn number 16. Lodge corner, then through Deer Leap to start off the lap, waiting for those green flags to be raised. Volodya is going to lead us off. When are we going to go green? When are we going to go for a sprint race here at Oulton Park? Any moment now. The track is green and they're off. They're gone. Volodya's got a great start because Angel is not out of this, but it's side-by-side. Striker going to go into the inside. He goes for the gap at the moment that he sits at the front, but there's no way through for the Honda for the time being. They're going through. It's quite a clean start from everybody. Here's Jack Southfield. He's going to make some places up as well. It's very tight. There's a driver off. I think that was Fleety. Yeah. It is. He's off into the wall back there.
He is indeed, and now the run in towards Shalloil and Island Bend. Through Island Bend first, he very fast flicked to the left before straight away you got a slam on the anchors into Shalloil's. Probably one of the tightest corners on the circuit. Very banked hairpin on the inside. You can carry quite a bit of speed through, but it's all about putting the foot back to the floor as you run your way now into the next chicane here at Britain's. A flick to the left, a flick to the right, and then you got to get that exit as straight as possible. So far, so clean for the majority of drivers, but there we go. There's Dominic Ligner getting an almighty run off the exit of that chicane, side by side with Southfield down the hill.
Yeah, much bravery. He saw Southfield maybe wasn't as committed as he was through that corner. Jack just holding him off for the time being. He's got Sir Smokey there for company just ahead of him as well. Everyone filing their way through. We're yet to complete the first lap here of this race, and Velocia's got a bit of control over it at the moment. He's managing the gap, but we're watching Jack Southfield in the Porsche trying to make some places up on Sir Smokey. It's going to be important for the guys toward the back of the championship. There's Jamie Nuttall. He's had an awful start. What happened to the Ferrari through his as Violetto goes for a session of cutting the grass there and looks to just rejoin safely. Look how wild that car was bouncing in the background there with the lumps and bumps, but car number 14, it's left to wonder what happened to Nuttall at the start.
Not entirely sure. Obviously took to the back end of the pro field coming into today because of, well, he's leading the championship ahead of Guillaume Hamling by a good 6 points. So obviously did take to the back end and maybe just didn't get off to the best of starts. We saw Felix Chef maybe be able to get the jump. Here is Pietro Savanecci, the Italian, on the back of his fellow countryman of Giuseppe Zampieri for third place in the silver class. The 444 is trying his best to move his way up, but that's the thing about Oulton Park. It's so tight, it's so twisty, it's so hard to make those moves stick, because there's not really much space. However, the Porsche of Elias Troy is going to go for the move, sends it to the inside, the 444 left beached on the outside, and, well, I was about to talk about how difficult it is to overtake, but, well, there we go, Elias Troy making the move where it counts.
Yeah, he is, and it's such a tight corner as well. It's important to get those moves done quickly as possible, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing more and more of that throughout this sprint session this evening. And we watch Velocia continue to open up that gap towards the front in his grey Ferrari. He's got Stryker following along. Then there's Chumley and Smokey and Southfield and Aligna. I forgot about James Wright as well. They're in third place at the moment. They're all sort of tentatively making their way around this circuit, not trying to make mistakes. Jack Southfield, I think, trying to build up. Actually, he's lost a place to Guillaume Hamling there, I think it's going to be important for him to make up places in this race, Zach. He's fighting for a championship here with Nuttall, who's made up a couple places after his tumultuous start. And it's going to be important for him to be consistent all session long, I'd have said.
Well, that's going to be true for pretty much anyone that's still on circuit at this point, out on park, championship fights or not. You've got to deal with the pressure of the hectic nature of a sprint race. 25 minutes in length, of course. You're not really got long before everything starts to... Before you get to the end, essentially, it's going to be action, action, action for the entirety of the race, and then of course we get to do a qualifying session and do it all over again for 25 more minutes. So yeah, championship fights or not, it's definitely going to be a test of attrition, a test of endurance, even in this sprint format like this. It's a contradiction, and it is. You've got to have an endurance mindset despite the fact it is a sprint race, and that is a very difficult mindset to cope with. There's Samuel Chumley, though, parking it on the inside of Britain's, and Sir Smokey just ran into the back of him, rejoining over the bumps, and Dominic Aligna trying to go side by side, nearly picked up a bit of a memento from the McLaren. Yeah,
a bit scary there, and here we go then, side by side, Aligna and Smokey making their way through the next part of the circuit. No way through for Dominic Aligna for the time being in his Audi. He's got Hamling for company now, going over the curbs as well. Jack Southfield, that's going to invite him along for a move as well in his Porsche. Down they run now through this complex and toward Druids now. Jack Southfield getting the move done importantly before that corner really sort of comes to you. It's a tricky one, that corner, Zach, and I think we may see some incidents there, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, if we don't see incidents around the entirety of the circuit, I will be quite surprised. But Druids especially is one of those corners where it's so fast, it's so tight. The curb on the inside of it is quite awkward, actually, because it's a bit of a lip. So if you get your tyre over it, then bring it back on, it just jumps over and really does unsettle the car as well. There's Samuel Chumley still having trouble out of the exit of Old Hall, turn number 1, of course, and just getting the car out of shape. I know that McLaren is quite a bit of a handful, but nothing really to this extent. He can't quite seem to get the car into an operating window that works for him, and unfortunately it's seen him now reeled into the clutches of the second place car of Violetto.
Yeah, I mean, I've never driven any of these cars, Zach, but I've heard the McLaren, Violetto goes for a very extravagant exploration off the circuit there at Shell Oil's corner at the moment. That looked a bit intense from the session, well, intense of an incident at least. But as I was going back to the point I was saying, I've heard the McLaren is particularly difficult to drive, I think, and it takes some sort of some brave driver to get the most out of a car like that.
100%. I mean, I remember doing an ACC championship myself. Is all Nick Stick not making it stick at all, going through Britain's. He's got to keep it parked. He's going to whip it around 180 degrees. Oh, with the Ferrari. That was, again, sketchy, but I think he's rejoined as safely as he can. And in fact, actually managed to put his foot to the floor and stay ahead of Wells, that is, I think. Back up to the front, though, and Vlodger is running away with things out in front. 2.9 seconds clear of Maurice Stryker, who's got James Wright, Sir Smoggy, Dominic Ligner, and Jack Southfield all for company. Now, this is a fight that we're going to sink our teeth into. Vlodger, I think, is making the most of the carnage and the melee. Is, well, Jack Southfield taking quite a few liberties, it must be said, going through turn number 1.
Yeah, it seems like James Wright and Striker there, they seem to be a bit of a cork in the bottle for Smoggy and Ligner and Southfield, and even Hamling as well. These guys are getting caught up behind them. Hamling getting a little impatient, having a look to the inside perhaps of Jack Southfield as they make their way down to turn number 5 once again in that bright yellow Lamborghini. And well, Nuttall, he's made some places. He's taken advantage of Chumley's incidents, got ahead of Chef, and is now behind his championship rival at the moment. Here's Paolo Cisco, maybe looking to clean up some places after a little mistake there from Miglioli in front of him. No run through at the moment. Miglioli's going to try and cover it off for the time being. Keep car number 97 at bay for the time being as they hug the inside of this corner. Important to do so. You've got to try and get around there as quickly as you possibly can in this race. A nice little battle between some of the AMS drivers here. It's nice to see some little battles going on up and down the grid, even though we've got such a tight circuit. And oh, here comes a run from De Fronzo in the BMW just behind. They're going to go side by side as they run down to the next set of corners. At the moment, it covered off by the Porsche, though. Cisco keeping the place for the time being.
Indeed so, able to hang on, and well, that is going to be to his delight. It's jumping over the grass there. Again, it just seems that these guys are taking some liberties in terms of the track limits. Here's a move potentially. Dominic Ligner has been fighting tooth and nail to find a way through on Sir Smoggy. He's the fastest man on circuit, his best, a 1:33.790 for the German, who has been on fire pretty much all the way through, not only this season, but all the seasons before this. He's got Jack Southfield for company. He looks to the outside, going through Island Bend, maybe the up and under for the Porsche. Great move from Southfield. Dominic Ligner, though, has the inside line, going to push the Porsche all the way to the outside, take the apex, and hang on to 5th place. And Dominic Ligner searching for his 3rd podium of the season. Didn't join us for round number 1, but he's been here for round 2 and 3, both of which able to take 3rd place, and he's not a million miles away from being able to do it, particularly if Smoggy starts to fight there with the Porsche.
Yeah, and all this fighting is just giving Stryker that little bit of breathing space. Look at the gap, 1.2 seconds. So if they fall off any more, they may lose touch of Stryker and his Honda at the moment. And these three, they're going to have to work together, Zach, I think, to try and get themselves back into a fight for a bit more than just the last place on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. But doing the best that with what they've got. Good exit out of Druids from Dominic Ligner. Very close to the rear end of that Mercedes. Does pull out to the right-hand side of the circuit. Not quite good enough to see him advance for a move as we approach halfway through the first of 2 races here. Up over the crest as you run your way through Deer Leap, across the start-finish line once more to start a new lap. And again, just the general consensus is that people can't find a way through, which obviously is to be expected around a circuit like Oulton Park. These GT cars are, you know, quite wide relative to the circuit width, and well, you've got to be very, very particular as to where you get the moves done. And I think what Ligner's doing, as aggressive as he is, he's being aggressive as to force the initiative for Sir Smoggy and force him into a mistake.
Yeah, you've got to be aggressive. You've got to get in the mirrors. You've got to really sort of make your presence felt out there on the circuit, especially at a track like this. And it really does reward boldness and braveness from the drivers in the cars as well. And you see him attacking the Britain's chicane there at the moment, trying to find the best exit. And it may be this corner where we see a lot of the overtakes as drivers try to really sort of capitalise the nature of that corner and try and get themselves through. But James Wright still kind of keeping these drivers behind. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, all nose to tail, more or less, heading their way down towards Druids once again, and we've got 14 minutes still left of this race. There's plenty of action yet to go, and here's some action here. Jamie Nuttall's making some moves. It's Jack Southfield now. He's getting past. Side by side they go. That's through Druids there. That's a very brave move from Nuttall, but it's a one that has paid off for him in the Ferrari at the moment. And Aligna, he's trying to make a move up the next corner as well. It's the inside. It's side by side between the two of them. So Smokey and Dominic Aligna. We've seen plenty of action between these two as they go through Deer Leap and start the next lap of racing. There's still side by side on the way down to turn number 1, and they're still going to continue. There's always a little bit of bumping and scraping between them, and so Smokey's off the second, and he's taken Hamling with him.
He has. Hamling's been able to do a full pirouette and continue on, overtaken by both. Well, the Lamborghini, I think that's a Felix Chef, and of Samuel Chumley. That is heartbreak for the man from Luxembourg. Jamie Nuttall is bit by bit picking his way forward. He's now back up into the top 5 and knocking on the door of Dominic Aligna for 4th place. Side by side, it was too good to be true. A little bit wide. Not really anyone's fault. It just, the car got out of shape as Elias Troyer is pushing the limits of that Porsche. And he finds himself on the back end of Sir Smokey, who is not going to be overly happy with the proceedings that happened. But I have to say, you can't really blame either party. Space and respect was given. It just seemed that the Mercedes ran out of road on the outside, got a little bit out of shape, and, well, Hamlin, you can't feel anything but empathy for him.
Yeah, this is the nature of this track, I think. It's one that will bite back, and it's certainly bit back there for Sir Smokey on the grass, and the car just couldn't handle it. They lost the car, went off, came back on the circuit, and, well, Hamlin was unfortunately in the right place at the wrong time as he got himself involved into that incident, and he's back. He's now, more importantly, behind Nuttall, who, despite it being half points for both the races this evening, is still going to lose out some points in this session for the moment. He's got to try and find his way past Samuel Chumley's McLaren, maybe get himself up ahead of Chef at least, and see if he can get himself back in touch. But there's only 12 minutes left of this session, Zach. It's a relatively short lap here, only around a minute and a half or so around, but you know, the laps are dwindling. It's a lot shorter than a 40-minute session.
It is. It's thick and fast. You've really got to make the most of every opportunity that comes your way, and it makes it even more unfortunate for those involved in a spin because, as you say, they don't have as much time in the race and therefore not as many laps to recover. So if you make a mistake, it is going to be a lot more damaging to the overall effect. But I mean, we've seen some good action still so far, and people really are making the most. You know, the likes of Jamie Nuttall, who has just flown his way through despite a poor start and making the most, really, of the calamity at the start, obviously with Guillaume Hamlin and Smokey having that little bit of a tussle. But Jamie Nuttall, I think he's going to be a bit disappointed with his 100% first place finish rate of the races that he has finished when we went to round 2 and round 3. But at least he's continuing on and, well, scoring the points where needed, especially with Guillaume Hamlin having a bit of a spin and down in 9th place.
Yeah, and it's going to be just taking advantage of those incidents and really making it count. But that's one less car for Dominic Aligna to battle at the moment, but it has invited Nuttall right behind the Audi, and here's a quick overtake. That's the car's filtering past a slower car here as well. Maybe someone could have tried and make a move through that. Jack Southfield had a little bit of a look at Nuttall as he slides onto the curb at the exit of turn 1 there. That was a very aggressive corner from Jack in his Porsche at the moment, but Aligna still holding on, still keeping in touch with James Wright. He needs to get past this Porsche, Zach. It's slowing him down, and it's getting him under threat from the drivers behind him as well. He needs to clear James Wright and get himself up into P3, and Nuttall, he's having a look at the outside at Shell Oils at the moment. He can't find a way through there at the moment, just with the nature of that corner, but I think it might be a matter of time before Nuttall gets through. He's just got some pace in that Ferrari.
He does indeed. He has had that pace all season long, while the Ferrari has been adjusted slightly with the balance of performance. Same too with the brand new Lamborghini Evo 2. It's still a fairly formidable car, particularly in the hands of Jamie Nuttall, who is absolutely flying and making the most of the opportunities so far in this race. He is just so good, and I've not really had the pleasure of driving the Ferrari myself. My ACC is bugging out a little bit, so I've not really been able to, but from what I've been told, it seems just like such a
Ooh.
really fast car, really stable car as well as Guillaume Hamling doing a bit of rallycross to find his way to the inside of Druids. Bit of argy-bargy with Samuel Chumley, who himself goes wide over the gravel, skating nearly into the barrier. In doing so, sends the car into a slide, but able to slam the brakes on and keep it pointing the right way, which, while it was a time loss, it was a race loss, I suppose.
That must have been a bit scary behind the wheel there for Chumley. It was just a light bit of contact between the two of them, but in a corner like Druids, it's enough to send the car off to a quick visit to good old Barrier over on the side there, but luckily keeping it out at the moment. And here's Jack Southwood. He's trying to make some moves as well. Maybe a little bit of contact. Oh, there's even bigger contact there. He's taken that around for a spin. Jack Southwood, that's a... Ooh, I'm gonna stop commenting on that one before Zach, but that wasn't that wasn't the cleanest of battles we've seen this evening.
Well, yeah. I mean, moving on, Jack Southwood is driving his Porsche inside the top 5. Felix Scheff, by the way, let's just talk about him in the 243 Lamborghini, up in 6th place overall. 4 pro cars clear of Salvanecci and P11 overall for 2nd place in the Silvers. Felix Scheff is absolutely flying. The Pole, who obviously got the reverse grid pole position and has just not looked back. And you know, people might be saying that he's a bit lucky because, oh well, he was given reverse grid pole. Like, there's not really much more you have to do, but he's dealt with the pressure. He's driven that car to its absolute limit, and he is absolutely flying. And it's not just a case of, oh well, the championship leader of Paul Sims could have driven his way through, because he could have. If he was that much better, he would have drove up onto the back of Felix Scheff. But I have to say, I'm mightily impressed with Scheff, because not only is he up there in those positions, he's also holding the pace of those positions. Guillaume Hamling isn't stretching the gap by a million miles. Felix Scheff has given him a good run for their money.
Yeah, luck has nothing to do with what Scheff has done this evening at the moment, and there's still plenty of time for something to happen, but he's found himself in sprint pole position. He's got himself into that place and stayed there for the time, and has really sort of made it work for him, and he's ahead of his rivals for the time being. He's going to come in, he's going to be feeling good about that result, I'm sure, if he does manage to finish it. But somebody who's going to be well, a little bit more relieved that the incident between Southfield and Nuttall did happen was Aligna, because it takes all the pressure off of him from behind, and he's now free to focus on right in these dying stages of the race. I'd imagine we've got about 3 more laps left, I'd have said, at this point. I think Velogia is about halfway through on his lap at the moment, so we'll wait and see as the time continues to tick down. But Aligna, what's he got to do here, Zach? Then he's now got the pressure off his shoulders. He's got no cars behind him that are going to really challenge him now. What's he got to do to get his way past right on such a tight circuit?
Fill the mirrors, essentially. Put right under some pressure, like he's doing through Druids there. Put him under a bit of pressure. He then is able to get the better run out, use the Audi R8's very, very good acceleration, duck and dive and look into the outside going into the final corner here at Lodge. He's not quite been able to find his way through, but that is exactly what he needs to do. Left, right, fill the mirrors, brake late, fill the gaps, and not let right breathe. Make him focus more backwards than forwards, and force the mistake out of his hand, or just send the move. Be braver on the brakes, get a better exit in certain places, analyze your opponent. Where are you quicker? And if you're going to be quicker anywhere, it's on the exit of the Cascades, it's on the exit of Druids, it's on the exit of Britons, where they are followed by a decent bit of flat out section before a braking zone. That is exactly what Dominic Aligna needs to do in order to hold his podium record. There's Elias Troyer picking his way through Giuseppe Zampieri and up into what is now 3rd place in the silver class with 5 minutes to go. But yeah, Dominic Aligna, it's not an easy task, but it's one that's definitely doable.
Yeah, it certainly is. It may be a tight circuit, it may be a lot of grass everywhere, but there's still passes to be had, and there's still plenty of space to go racing around here, of course. And Aligna, he's trying to do all that. He's going up the inside, he's sending it as they go into this little complex around here, and it's around the outside for Dominic Aligna in the Audi. He's finally got his way past James Wright. He got in there, he got in that space that was available to him. He broke late, made it work, and now he's free to go and chase after Striker. He's got 3 seconds to close in about 2 laps time. I'm not sure how likely he is to do that now, but look who's creeping back into a fight now. Jack Southfield And Guillaume Hamling there getting themselves back into place at the moment. And Hamling trying to have a look around the outside of the final corner there. No way through for the Lamborghini at the moment. And it's been a bit of a tumultuous race for our two championship contenders in the pros at the moment. Both of them have had incidents, and Hamling finds himself with that advantage at the moment, but he's got some fighting still yet to do. There's 4 minutes and 10 seconds of racing left to go, so roughly around 2 laps or so, and we're heading around down towards Shell Oil now. Is that? I'm a bit lost on where we are for the time being, but Hamling he's put some pressure on Southfield.
Yes, this is Island, and the braking zone is Shell Oils. The hairpin complex is where we're at. It's a very beautiful corner, it must be said. Very fast-paced, amazing in a Formula 4 car, because Island Bend is almost flat out. Shell Oils, then you brake as soon as you're in a straight line. I'm sure it's not too dissimilar for these GT3 cars, because in terms of pace, they are fairly similar. But yeah, it's a brilliant circuit here on Oulton, so it's nice to introduce you slowly but surely. You know, dip your toes in the water when it comes to more than just the Formula 1 calendar in terms of motor racing circuits, and the TSRC has definitely given you a good opportunity to do that off the circuit. Striker. That's Maurice Stryker.
How's that happen? He's completely dropped it. He's well off, so James White's going to be invited back onto the podium at the moment. Aligna promoted into P2 at the minute, and he's definitely not catching Velogia unless Velogia's got a spin in him in this time. But wow, Maurice Stryker, he's been sat in P2 for lap after lap after lap. He'll be kicking himself.
Absolutely. There's no worse pain, really, from where you feel so secure as a driver in a position all for it to go wrong in the dying stages. You know, it's one thing if you get crashed out on lap 2, but it's something else when you're this close to tasting what could have been a P2 finish for Stryker, and it's all fell out of his hands. Fortunately, he has got 50 minutes of qualifying in a 25-minute race, but it must be said, his morale, his confidence is going to be absolutely shattered. And well, with that, though, this fight here between Wright, Southfield and Hamling has now turned itself into a fight for the podium. So, well, now the stakes are high.
Yeah, they are. These three are going to be fighting tooth and nail for these last few laps, I'd have said. Where is Velogia at the moment? He's coming up towards, I think that is his lops. Is that how you say it? I think that's right, but I think we're going to have one more lap after this one. Of racing, maybe even 2, depending on how quickly Slav can get himself to the line. Chef's getting a little bit close to this fight as well. He might see himself elevated. He won't be elevated in terms of the championship, as Jack Southfield skips over that curb. That could invite Hamling in for a move. It is. He's going to pull alongside the Porsche. They're going to go side by side through Druids, I think. Surely not. Through this corner once again they go at the moment, and it's Hamling sneaks his way through the inside of that Porsche, and he sticks the move. A little bit of contact between the two, but no major dramas as they go through. Hamling, that was an important move for him. He might have to he's got a little bit of time left. He may catch up to Wright. Can he get past him though? Wright has been quite the brick wall on this circuit, it must be said.
He has indeed. He has made that Porsche incredibly wide, and while it is assisted by the nature of the circuit, you also have to, you know, drive with that and use the terrain as a weapon of defense from Wright's perspective. And he's moved the car into the right positions, driven the car in the right way in the right places as well. Right place, right time, and he's perfectly poised as it stands to finish on the podium. Final lap of the race, and Vyacheslav Vlodja has done a brilliant job out in front, it must be said. So too is Dominic Aligna to fight his way back up. But this is where all the action stems. 2/3 of a lap left to go. Wright, Hamling, Southfield, even Felix Cheff, let's not forget, if anything happens, he's closing on this fight for P3 overall. He's had a sensational race. I know we've already sung his praises, but wow, to be involved in a podium fight amongst the pros, that is something special.
Yeah, it is, and he must be well quite happy with himself actually, and it must be a circuit that perhaps plays to Chef's strengths at the moment. I mean, it happens, doesn't it? You get a circuit that you just really like, and it really sort of sticks with you at the moment. But this is it then, the final lap. And here comes Velogia around Lodge for the final time in this first race this evening. All he's got to do is keep it on the road for the time being, and he does that in his Ferrari. He's going to cross the line. This is your pro winner for the sprint race round, well, race number 1, I guess, of 2. as we go along. Who's going to be on the podium? Dominic Aligna, one of them, but James Wright is going to hold on. He's going to keep Hamlin behind, keep Southfield behind as well. He'll come home at P3, so that's your podium there. And Chef, a round of applause to him for his fight amongst the pros to come home as your silvers winner for this evening. And well, here's Gemello. He's had a little bit of a maybe a little less pressure baked race. We haven't seen too much of the AMS racing at the moment, but he's going to come home hopefully in P1 for the AMS as well, making his way around Druids now. He's just got to keep it on the road like everybody else. He's got a couple of cars for company. DeFronzo, he has a little look to the inside of Lodge, but no way through for car number 9. So it's going to be, as they go through, it'll be Gemello, DeFronzo and Cockle making their way to make up your podium for your AMS.
Brilliant race from all involved. That fight for the podium in the pros was nothing short of sensational. Bit strange as to what happened to Jamie Nuttall towards the back end of that race. It was quite a surprise not to see him, but he finished P8 by the end of it, towards the back end of the most competitive pro runners. So yeah, that is a bit of a shame from the championship leader, and might be losing a bit of steam in that regard. But here are the last couple of drivers to come across the line. Borelli, Nick Stick and McGowan to round off the very, very large field, upwards of 30 cars that we've got here today. Brilliant race and a brilliant way to open up the evening. Now we get to actually do some qualifying, which I think is going to be, well, it could definitely sort of put people where they're meant to be in terms of this next race.
Yeah, it certainly could. It certainly could indeed. I think we're just waiting for the rest of the cars to get in and we can run you through the results of this race, if they are going to indeed pop up, which they should do in just a moment. But yes, we get to have a bit of a breather, take a bit of a moment to just catch our breaths again, and we're going to go round for what is going to be, well, a very, very important qualifying session, it must be said. A circuit like this, you've really got to try and get your track position nailed down for the time being. But let's run you through the grid for the first race of 2 this evening, as Vyacheslav Volodya is your winner for the pros in race number 1, with Dominic Aligna and James Wright making up the podium. Then Hamlin comes home in a decent P4 with Jack Southfield coming up, rounding off your top 5. Chef is going to be your winner for the silvers at the moment. Then there's Sir Smoggy and Nuttall separating Chef from his other podium sitters of Elias Troyer and Salvanecci at the moment. Then we got Giuseppe Zampieri and Paul Sims and Morton as well in P13. Then you've got your podium for your AMS. That's Gemello, DeFronzo and Cockle at the moment, as we've got Miglioli, we've got Guillard, we've got the grid trying to reset itself as well. We've got Romanoli, Cisco, Borelli, Stick, McGowan, Kyala, Striker, Violetto, Chumley and Samuel Fleety, I don't think finished the race. So Oulton Park striking back, and well, there'll be some redemption stories to be told in this qualifying session, Zach, and well, I don't think we can stress enough how important it's going to be.
100%. Obviously, the reverse championship format of race number 1 has meant that people are a little bit mismatched in terms of where they're quote-unquote meant to be relative to their pace. So now they get an opportunity to put them where they're quote-unquote supposed to be. They're able to put the lap time in and make it count. And a circle out on park, hot lapping is so much fun. And to hook up a lap just is, again, one of the most exhilarating feelings that you can feel as a sim racing driver. And as we say, track position is going to be so vital. As we saw, defending is fairly easy here. So if you can put the work in qualifying, make the difference where it counts, you should, in theory, be able to find yourself in a fairly decent position come the end of race number 2. But, you know, it's not necessarily good enough just getting the track position. You've also got to not only keep it from the cars behind, but also drive to a standard that is both quick and comfortable for you, because time and time again, drivers had offs that cost them very, very, you know, big places in this race.
Yeah, they certainly did, and you saw a multitude of times that they were exploring the very limits of the track by getting themselves on the curbs, the cars bouncing and bouncing over them. That was, some of them curbs must be real sort of spine breakers around this circuit, with especially how aggressive the cars were making their way over them. But well, Oulton Park has certainly proved itself to be 4.307 kilometers of pure drama, a narrow circuit, and it's going to be one that, well, qualifying is going to be very important. We're waiting to get ourselves out onto the action, well, out onto the grid. Zach, and any advice for this qualifying session? What are the drivers got to do to get themselves the best out of the, well, not just the car, but the track as well?
Play to your strengths and weaknesses, obviously, drive within the limit and make best use of the time that you've got. You know, you've got 15 minutes to put a lap time in, right? You're not necessarily in a rush. It's not a case of on iRacing where you've only got 2 laps to put a lap time in. You've got the time, and if need be, you can extend over that time by starting your lap at a good point to be able to finish your lap after the checkered flag. So these guys, they just need to put a bank of time in, take it easy, smooth transition into the qualifying session, put that bank of time in, and then go ham. That's when you can really throw the car in. Once you've got a safety net, throw the car in, be smooth but be fast. It's the laps that often don't necessarily look quick that are the ones that are quick, especially at a circle like this with so many long and winding corners and also some quite nip and tight ones as well. It's just the circle that has everything, and well, it's again, the bottom line is go fast and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, that's I guess the long and short of it. I suppose the best advice you can give them is we finally get ourselves out onto the grid. Chumley's going to be leading the way for all of the cars. We're waiting well, not onto the grid, I suppose, but onto the circuit. But we're going qualifying finally here for round number 4, and well, it's going to be on the drivers' minds, this qualifying session. It's going to be what they're achieving, well, what they're wanting to achieve out here, being getting themselves as high up as possible, and of course, well, trying to follow as much of that advice from yourself, Zach, as they can. They're going to have to try and be as perfect as possible, but you know, the perfect lap, it doesn't really exist, does it? I mean, one lap, you know, you could do one lap that feels perfect and another lap that feels just as good and maybe even a little bit better, but it's going to be the drivers that can do that and can find that balance between machine and the road that they are operating on. And well, who's going to do that tonight? Who do you think? We'll get the predictions in early before any more times are set on the board, Zach.
Well, when it comes to all-out raw pace, I definitely think Jamie Nuttall is very, very quick in terms of the pro field. In terms of the AMS, Silvers, we'll start with first. I'm going to go with Felix Jeff. He is the highest SimGrid rated driver on the silver field. So, and also his performance in race number 1 gave me confidence that he's looking quite good in this qualifying. Now, when it comes to the AMS, we didn't really see much of them. Paul Sims didn't obviously get off to the best of runs as he was in the AMS for race number 1. I'm fairly sure. No, he's silvers. Apparently, he had a red mark in race number 1. But when it comes to the AMS, from what we've obviously seen through race number 1, I'm just trying to think. With David, no. Nick Stick, we didn't really see much of an impression of. Roberto Miglioli, maybe. I think, you know, didn't do quite badly in race number 1. Coquel as well, not too bad from them. But it is a very different ballgame to set a good lap time. And, well, that's why, because Sir Smoggy somehow has completely launched that triangle tyre barrier into the air. I don't entirely know why, but across all 3 categories, I think it is going to be a tight fight for pole. It's just going to be a case of who's able to just find that little bit extra. As you say, there's no such thing as a perfect lap, but you can get darn close to it, even if it's just a case of looking at the time that someone else has done, say a 1:33.602 or a 1:33.430, finding that little extra to top that, braking that little bit later, getting on the power that little bit earlier. The difference between pole and second place could well and truly be that. It could just be who brakes that little bit later, who gets on that power a little bit earlier, who's that little bit more tight getting to the apex. It's the small things that add up and the small things that are going to separate the good from the great.
Yeah, it certainly is. And in my preparation for tonight, Zach, I was looking at what sort of times we could expect from the drivers, and the pro time. Well, a good pro time around here would be somewhere within that 131.6 sort of range. Good time for anyone within that silver category would be somewhere around the 135s, and maybe the AMs are 140. But don't take my word for it. Don't take these as concrete. That I'm sure drivers will go even faster out there. There'll be drivers who find more pace, or just absolutely prove me wrong. I mean, I'm still learning this category, Zach, but it's a lot of fun doing it. And these guys are having a little bit of a fight out there. That's Marco Violetto and one of the many Italian liveried cars out there, car number 74 at the moment. They're fighting for track position at the moment. And Violetto, I hope he wasn't on a lap. He might have felt he was a bit obstructed on that one.
Let's hope not, but it's easily done. You've got 30 cars around a very short and tight club circuit. Sam Fleety wasn't a shout I really considered. Guillaume Hamling obviously takes to the pole position of a 132.667, but Sam Fleety didn't finish race number one. Didn't really see him at all in race number one, and I honestly thought he didn't turn up today, which would be a shame because he's already taken his drop round of not showing up, I think, a week ago or the week before. So, yeah, today has been a real test of what he could do in terms of a championship, really setting him back in terms of those chances. But coming firing back on all cylinders in race number two, already provisionally on the front row of the field. So Smogie's up there. Weirdly, though, my prediction of Jamie Nuttall languishing in 5th place. So Oulton Park really was a spanner in the works.
Yeah, perhaps. And, well, we got to remember, Zach, he's on a bit of a redemption arc at the moment, I suppose. Is Nuttall, as round one was not the round that he wanted to remember his opening round championship by. And we'll take a quick glance over the standings at the moment while we have a little bit of time to do that. So Jamie Nuttall, this is all provisionally, remember. I don't think everything has been finalised yet after Spa, but Jamie Nuttall is currently your leader on 61 points in the Pro Series, of Guillaume Hamling on 55, Sam Fleety and Dominic Aligna actually tied on 40 points. So close between Fleety and Aligna at the moment, as we watch Sir Smoggy get all sorts of out of shape and onto the grass, lucky to keep his Mercedes out the barrier. Then I'll move over to this is the Silvers. So Paul Sims is leading the way for the Silvers at the moment. He's on 61 points. Elias Troyer in P number 2 with 54 points, and Marco Violetto in P3 at the moment, 45 points. So fairly spread battles for the pros and for the Silvers at the moment. And then we'll go to the AMs at the moment with Salvatore Redovid leading the way. He's on 55 points. Nick Stick not so far behind on 45, and just a point behind Nick Stick is Roberto Miglioli at the moment, the Italian, looking to maybe get himself into P2 in the championship. But it's all still fairly open. There's still, of course, this round and this race, and then 2 more after that to go. So there's still plenty of time for drivers to go out there. And just to go back to your point on Sam Fleety there, Zach, he was out more or less before they could even complete a lap. There was a major incident where Sam Fleety went miles off the circuit, so we never really got to see what he could do around this circuit. So this will be his time to shine, I think. He'll be out there, he'll be putting in the lap time, he'll be getting some good, well, I'm sure he's got plenty of practice in, but he'll be getting a bit more of a feel for the circuit at the moment. Many cars off the track, another car off at Druids. I'm sure we'll see a few more of those at the moment. But there could be some outliers here, in amongst the pros, especially because we lost a few of them. And those who can have a better handle on the circuit are going to do a lot better. And I don't think Jamie Nuttall will have it as easy with the circuit for one, and with everything. But as I say that, he goes even quicker, going 0.07 of a second behind Hamling, who's currently leading the pros at the moment. And Zach, I must say, it's an incredibly tight field if you're in the top 5.
100%. It is ridiculous. A quarter of a second separating 5 cars. Absolutely sensational stuff. Hamling versus Nuttall, that is going to be one to remember. Both of them not really having the best of races in race number 1. Nuttall, I think, in the end finishing behind Hamling, or very marginally in front of him. So in terms of their championship swing, could well be the difference here today. But Dominic Ligner up there, Sam Fleety up there, so Smokey up there. It's a sensational battle between all of those involved. And look at the silvers. Felix Chef is ahead, or was ahead, of Samuel Chumley before he put in a better time and went up to 6th. But he's ahead of Maurice Stryker. He's only a little bit off the likes of Jack Stafford. He's only just over half a second clear of the overall pole time. Salvaneschi, as good of a driver as he is just shy of a second off Felix Chef in that pursuit for the AM pole position. That says so much as to the quality of driver that Chef is coming into today at Oulton Park. He's just switched on.
Yeah, a little correction there, Zach. This is the Pro-Ams we're watching along this fight for pole position between them at the moment. But yeah, Salvaneschi he's going to be trying to get himself among that as well. But Chef has just been on another level this evening. He was on his own and leading with well, just absolute confidence in the first parts, and well, he's leading by quite the gap at the moment. I think it's about a second or so between himself and Elias Shaw, maybe a bit less than that. Well, a bit less than, well, a second or so over Salvaneschi at least. But Paul Sims, he might have something to say about that. He's not overly slow, and he does go into P3, knocking Salvaneschi down just that once more. But we're still watching this fight for pole position, I guess. Samuel Chumley has put a time down. He's got himself into P6. And he's creeping ever closer at the moment. Can he get himself in amongst that fight in the 4.5 minutes that we have left? It's yet to be seen at the moment. But we've got quite an intense qualifying here, Zach.
Absolutely. And it is one of the best ones so far this season, where you've got just over 0.6 of a second covering the vast majority of the pro field. But into the final moments, final couple of laps, and this is where everything is thrown on the lines, and this is where these drivers are going to take everything just that extra notch up, find that extra gear, find that extra drive through the Oulton Park circuit. It is a brilliant venue, a brilliant lap to hot lap, and be on the limit around. It's so easy to overstep the mark, but if you get it just right, that fine balance between man and machine, dancing the car through, it is one of the best out there, particularly one of the best in the UK. Paolo Cisco, though, at the moment he is 4th place in the AMS runnings, as Red David is, well, flying out in front, in all fairness. He's 1.6 seconds off the pole time and 8/10 clear of De Fronzo for 2nd place in the AM standing. So brilliant stuff as Cisco across the line goes up to 2nd place, a little bit closer margin. But overall, I mean, you've got, what is that, about 2.5 seconds covering the top 20. A circle like Oulton Park, and across all 3 classes, the pros, the silvers and the AMs, a lot should in theory be divided. So 2.5 seconds to cover this field is sensational, but with just a little bit left to go in qualifying, it is really now crunch time.
Yeah, it is, and it's just going to be, well, who can get themselves a perfect lap around here? Well, as close to that perfect lap as possible. You've really got to just be brave, get on those curbs, and really make the most of the circuit and the car that you're driving as well. And, you know, there's so many important corners that will lose and gain your time around this track. There's a lot of it to, there's a lot to do, and Cockle just about saving it, just about keeping it on the grippy stuff there for the time being. But we're waiting for those final times to start coming in, and Cockle actually is P3 at the moment in your AMs, and that little mistake is not going to help him. He's very wide there through Shell Oils as well, not so great from him. But here's Jamie Nuttall. Is he on a fast lap? I think he might be. He's coming down towards the line. Let's see if he does improve or not. If not, it will be a start of a fast lap, and it looks like it is. So he's got 0.07 of a second to find. Can he find it out there, Zach? What's he got to do?
Go faster, essentially. I mean, there's not really much about it. Go faster than he did on the lap that saw him into 2nd place. Through the Cascades, chucking the car through one of the quickest corners on the circuit. Then you put your foot to the floor, climb up the gears as you run your way through the very bumpy flat-out section. The flick to the left of Island Bend, and it is so crazy how much speed they carry through. As soon as the car's straight, you slam on the anchors for Shell Oils, take a double apex approach, use the camber to rotate the car. Once again, getting the power up through the slight kink of the right-hander. Position yourself well for Britons, because it's all about putting your foot down and accelerating up over the crest as you ride your way in towards the next chicane at the right-left. Here, downhill braking, slam on the anchors as straight line as possible over the curb through the left. A little bit of a mistake there from Jamie Nuttall, but once again, as you flick it up through the right, and again, it is just uphill climb, so it's all about the exit. Nuttall is on the limit. However, that small mistake might have cost him.
Yeah, it might have, and it's all going to be about the fine margins. Look how close it is. There's 3 attempts covering the top 6, 5 covering the top 7. Then you've got just over a second covering the top 9. There's so many places, and well, Chef's found himself among that. Can he do anything? I don't think so. He's in the pit, so he's had enough of his session. But let's see what Nuttall can do coming across the line. Is that mistake going to be something that cost him? It looks like it is. He might have time to go again, but I don't know how well the car will be set up to go. Here's Dominic Aligna. He's making his way through Druids now, round up towards Lodge for his, what will be his final run. There's 10 seconds left of qualifying. So if they're, well, I can't remember exactly how it works, Zach, but I think there's some drivers who still have a bit of time if they are on laps or whatnot. But Dominic Aligna doesn't improve.
Wow. He does. In the end, he went to pole position.
He did. Oh, he did. I didn't see that.
Yeah. 1:32.495 for Dominic Ligner. Sees him on pole position. Of course, when the timer ticks 0, that's when the checker flag is waved. Anyone that takes the checker flag, that's their qualifying done. Anyone that started a lap before the checker flag, though, gets to finish their lap. So Dominic Ligner narrowly missed out on that. But here is Patricio Gameo in his Nord-Est Racing Team Italian Porsche through the final corner here at Lodge. You dip your way downhill. 25th overall towards the back end of the Anfield as well. Any improvements from the Italian? It's at 1 place ahead of McGowan, so small gains, but it's a place is a place at the end of the day. Here's Samuel Chumley, though. Could we see a dent made in the fight for the second row?
I don't know, he might find himself in there. I think maybe break into that top 5 at least. Get amongst Fleety and Smokey. Let's see what the McLaren can do. No, he improves a little bit, I think, but he doesn't improve enough to see himself into this. Here's Sam Fleety then. I was wondering where car number 16 was. He's making his way through Druids. Can he cement himself in this session? He had a poor first race in this sprint session. Can he rectify that in qualifying for now? An important qualifying session round the final corner through Deer Leap he comes. This pink car making his way through. No, he doesn't improve his place. So it's going to be P4 for Fleety, and that's going to be your qualifying. Let's run through the grid before we go racing for the second time tonight. Dominic Aligna on pole for the pros at the moment. Then he's got Guillaume Hamling, Jamie Nuttall, Sam Fleety and Sir Smokey that make up the top 5. Then you've got Samuel Chumley, Jack Southfield, and Felix Sheff, who's there among the pros for his silver pole position. Maurice Stryker then in P9. Then you've got Salvanecci and Troyer. Then Sims. Then Redovid taking pole position for the AMS at the moment. Then we have Violetto, Wright, Zampieri, Cisco, Cockle, Morton, Michele DeFronzo, Miglioli, Kyala, and the rest of the grid going along. Then we got Nick Stick, Borelli, Romanoli, Gemello, McGowan, Geard, Angel, Wells, Velogia, who, well, I think some of those drivers didn't take part during the session. Remember, Velogia had a qualifying ban. I can't say for the other two, but Velogia, well, he's got some work to do, hasn't he?
He's got to use the pace that he had throughout race number 1 and claw his way back up the field. He's got the AM and the silvers before he even makes a dent in terms of increasing his points tally. It's going to be a tough ask from the Estonian, but you know, he's got 25 minutes to do so. So I guess it's just a case of how far can he climb, and well, we'll find out come the race's end. But so far it's been a brilliant display of both racing and of qualifying action, and now we get to wrap it all nicely up with a 25-minute showdown, of which, well, look at that, stacked top 5, top 6, top 7. It is nothing short of brilliant, and Felix Sheff as well. I'll be honest, I actually expect him to make a bit of a headache for some of the pros.
Yeah, I think so. He might get himself in amongst it. I think he's definitely had some pace the whole time. He's not overly he's not the fastest out there for sure, but he's definitely going to get his elbows out, get that Lamborghini into some places where it might not be. But it's been thoroughly deserved, I think. Zach, he's been on it. He's been driving really well, and he's been fast. That's what he needs to be, really. And it's been a track that seems to suit Chef down to a T, and he's going to be trying to make the most of it.
Absolutely, and to claw back some time and points in the championship as well. I mean, he's not doing too bad. It's just the case of, well, unfortunately, the start of the season was a DNF, and then he didn't show up to round number 2, which meant that his only result is a second place last time out, which is by no means a bad result. And he is a very, very quick driver. It's just those first 2 rounds have really set him back. No points for one of them, the DNF or the no-show, means one of them is the drop round. So not ideal, but he's firing on all cylinders with that win, obviously, just recently, and seeing where he can get. I doubt it's going to be good enough for a championship victory unless something really bad happens to those in front. But you can still see himself climb up the field. It's just a case of what could have been for Felix Chef had it, been a better opener to the season.
Yeah, that's it. And it's all about sometimes in sim racing, that's just how it is. You don't make races, or there's just things that get in the way, and it could be telling, and it doesn't take away from your pace as a driver, but what it does do is it doesn't set you up for having a championship. But I don't think it's going to be something that he thinks about too much, Zach, because it's going to be it's at the end of the day, they're all out here having fun, aren't they? Which is probably the most important thing as well. And I must say, live chat has been looking a little bit quiet this evening. There's about eight people watching thus far. So if you are sneakily sitting in the live chat, do engage, do feel free. We don't bite. We do love to have a little bit of a chat every now and again in between the action that we have going on the track. And speaking of on-track action, Zach, we're on a formation lap. And what are the drivers going to be thinking? What are they going to be doing? What are they getting ready for in this formation lap to the line?
Well, it's your final chance before the adrenaline is flowing and everything is on the line. Ghosted cars and everything, nothing's going to go wrong on the formation lap, but you can make it so things go right as soon as the green flag drops. Get those tyres up to temperature, get those brakes into a nice window. While it seems like, oh, well, what difference is a few degrees going to make? A lot. It could be the difference between the tyres having enough grip to send the move into turn number 1. It could be the difference of the brakes still being warm enough to properly stop themselves, but also not being too hot as to brake fade and not work as efficiently into turn number 1. Those are the small differences that you will be grateful for come the end of the first lap, come the end of the first half of the race, come the end of the race in its entirety. But also, not only from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint. They've come off the back of race number 1. Good or bad, try and use it to motivate yourself. If it's a good one, go for a second. If it's a bad one, use it as fuel for the fire. Use it to drive you to redeem yourself and find yourself maybe in a better position come the end of race number 2. But yeah, also with that, set yourself a goal. Do you want to gain as many places? Do you want to keep the position? Do you just not want to lose any places? Whatever it is, set yourself a goal, deal with the nerves, and just try and survive the melee of lap number 1.
Yes, and lap number 1 is just around the corner. The drivers are lining themselves up 2 by 2. They go for this rolling start. That's Lodge corner there, so we're going to be getting started any minute now. Dominic Kaligna took pole position for qualifying, and he's going to lead everybody around. When's he going to go? When's the track going to go green? When are we going racing here at Oulton Park? We've got moments and moments and moments of waiting still to go, but here we go. The green flag is out. Dominic Kaligna has put his foot to the floor as he gets away cleanly from Hamling. Sam Fleety's on the challenge as well, and that's Samuel Chumley going side by side as well. A little bit of contact with Jack Southfield, who he's battling with at the moment, but 111 drops behind the Porsche at the moment, and as they go through, a little bit wide from Fleety as well, but altogether a pretty clean start.
Indeed so. Everyone now single file as they run their way in towards Island Bend. Unfortunately, the poorest of a start for Samuel Chumley. Into Shell Oils for the first time. He's looking at the rear end of Jack Southfield. No major movements amongst some of the top guys. It is a Ligner that leads from Hamling. Well, he's doing a great job there, side by side with James Wright and Pietro Salvanecci into Britons. He's unfortunately having to tuck in behind. James Wright not getting the best of qualifying, and now this is the consequence of it. Stuck behind the top end of the silver category means that you've got a long way to go before you can even think about increasing your points all. And by the time he gets to that position, if he gets to that position, Maurice Strike is probably going to be miles off in the distances. Here comes Paul Sims trying to make the most of his evening after a poor showing in race number 1. A good qualifying, and he's looking for P2 in the silvers.
Yeah, he's applying the pressure onto Elias Troy there. He's filling the mirrors, as we said. It's so crucial around a circuit like this. Here he goes. He's going to look to the inside of Lodge, but he backs off, thinks better of it for the time being. Car number 42 trying to set up some moves and maybe get a bit higher up. And that's Samuel Chumley. He's coming into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty. So he's managed to get one on the opening lap. I wonder what for. At the moment, it doesn't tell you what the penalty is for, but he's obviously done something that the stewards didn't really like out there, so he's come through the pit lane at the moment. And correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but there's no mandatory pit stop in this race. It's all the way to the end.
Yeah, sprint to the finish. There's no mandatory pit stop window like we saw in race number 1. As that's wide, Elias Troyer nearly joining them was Paul Sims right on the limited adhesion into Shell Oils, and he's still off the circuit. There comes Salvanecci and James Wright trying to pick their way through. That was dangerous from Elias Troyer, and a heart in his mouth moment. Same too for Paul Sims there, but well held from both.
Yeah, that was mere inches from calamity, wasn't it, between the two of them coming together, but well held from Paul Sims in his Ferrari to keep away from Elias Troy, who had a bit of a misadventure on the grass there. As we watch Velogia, he's already cleared about 10 cars or so already, so he'll be trying to get his way through, and he'll be setting his sights on the likes of Chumley and Wright for the time being. I think that'll be a realistic goal for him, but if he can quickly clear the other classes, he may get into the fight. And of course, there's still plenty of time left on the clock, and there's Chumley making his way past. I think that was past Paolo Cisco in car number 97, or was that Borelli? I think it might have been Borelli. It's hard to tell with the timing tower being a little bit behind between the two of them, but either way, it was a pass for Samuel Chumley in his 111 McLaren. And I wonder what the action is at the front. Jack Southwood looks like he's got a bit of a go on at the minute. Zach and, well, the top 6, they're all staying within close touch of one another, but Dominic Aligna still leads the way.
He does indeed, doing a fantastic job. Guillaume Hamling, what can he do in terms of maybe bridging the gap and going for a move? But in the opening moments, no shortage of action for sure. The top 6 of the pros separated by virtually nothing. Jack Southwood, quickest of the lot provisionally with his fastest lap attempt, but long is that going to change as we run the way through the race, and who is actually going to establish themselves as the quickest driver? Jamie Nuttall, Guillaume Hamling. Interesting dynamic in terms of the championship. Who's going to finish in front where, and how is that going to change the things going into the final 2 rounds of Valencia and Donington Park? It's been a fantastic battle between the pair of them, and someone's finally got to dethrone Sir Smokey, who is the 2-time reigning champion. And while Jamie Nuttall wants redemption from season 1, where he, lost out the championship to Samuel Brignara, but Guillaume Hamlin, he's been here since the start. He's been competitive since the start, has never found himself in a position to compete for the championship until now. He's going to want to be fighting through with everything he's got, and 2 Ferraris send each other into the barrier on the exit of Druids. Yeah,
that was Salvanecci and Paul Sims going into the wall there. That was a big incident, and I'm sure they've got some damage on their cars there as well. That looked quite the impact into the wall. That's going to affect their racing. They go wide, and Samuel Chumley is going to have to try and navigate these 2 cars as quickly as possible to get himself back into the fight among the pros as well. And he dispatches of the 2 of them before turn 1 there, and they're going to continue their fight though. Paul Sims and Borelli. This is Paul Sims and Salvanecci, sorry, and they're going to continue going on. And this is for P4 in the silvers at the minute, and wow, it's heating up in the silver category among the midfield.
Absolutely, it is. Well, I mean, Just look at that as Paul Sims once again taking up a bit of WRC here at Oulton Park. As I know Brands Hatch has got a rallycross layout, but I'm not entirely sure Oulton Park does. But Paul Sims is certainly making one. There's more contact. That's with Borelli this time, and well, they send them each other off at Shell Oil's corner. And again, Paul Sims, I think, is just having a nightmare of a race so far. He's not really in the right mental state. It's just one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and there we go. I think he's completely given up.
Yeah, I think that Ferrari's sort of limping its way around the track. I would expect Paul Sims to bow out of this race, unfortunately so. But watching Sam Fleety, he's been able to get away cleanly this time. He's been able to get there. He's been able to get a decent run through it. So he's not overly in the top fight for the championship, but he's still in amongst it as well. He's still been Fawn and Nuttall's side, and well, he's currently the car that blocks Nuttall from access to Hamling at the moment, who, you know, is a veteran here, Zach. That something that you've kept stating over the time that I've been here and have been watching along as well. And well, with somebody who's so well versed in a championship, and someone who's got, you know, a good standing among the drivers and with the cars as well, it's not unlikely to see them in a championship challenging position. I think he's been rather consistent over this season and the rest of the time that I've been watching him as well. He's always seemed to put the car in the right place. And while he may not have been quick every single race, he's been there. He's been consistent, and that's just enough, isn't it, to challenge for a championship?
100%. I mean, it has been the best season so far from Game Handling. I mean, as I say, he's always been up there or thereabouts, but this season he's just turned it up in terms of the consistency. First at the first round at Silverstone, then at Kyalami it was second place, then at Spa it was second place as well. The only time he's finished off the top two was race number 1 here at Oulton Park, which was not his fault whatsoever. Unfortunately, he was driven into by Sir Smogie's rocket ship of a car that it turned out to be on the exit of Old Hall, but he recovered well, he scored the points, and he's doing exactly that now in race number 2. It could well be yet another victory if he can close the gap to Dominic Aligna, who knows. But from Game Handling, I can still see the championship as a very good chance of happening, a very good opportunity of happening. He just needs to play his cards right, keep that consistency up, get the results, and obviously hope that Jamie Nuttall also has a couple of poor races along the way. But the good thing is Guillaume Hamlin can lean back. If he does have a poor race, he can lean back on a second place. Jamie Nuttall, he hasn't got any, he's got no leg to stand on, essentially. He's got nothing to fall back to, because that DNF first time out of Silverstone. So drop rounds might have a huge effect in that championship in terms of the tolerance that Guillaume Hamlin is going to have, and how that's going to affect his mental game going into the final couple of rounds.
Yeah, certainly. And well, he's doing everything right so far. He's staying in touch with Aligna. He's in P2. He's able to keep Fleety at bay at the moment. But I think, you know, from a bit more of a bigger picture perspective at the moment, if this battle does heat up between the top three, Jamie Nuttall is in a prime position to capitalise on any mistakes or any slowed or lost time from the drivers ahead of him at the minute. But well, it looks like Sam Fleety's losing touch a little bit, and there's a bit of action going on a little bit further back. Borelli who's currently P3 in the AMS at the moment. He's fighting amongst, he's got Vladislav Volodya behind, and he's got himself Salvanenchi. So it's not a fight for points necessarily, but it's still a fight for track position, which is something going to be incredibly valuable to Volodya as the time continues to tick down. And we're just approaching the 15-minute mark now, and Volodya's still got a lot of places to gain to get himself back in touch with his fellow pros. But the question is, can he get past Borelli, who's currently holding him up? And well, I suppose he has every right to do so.
100%. I mean, Borelli, while it's not necessarily losing or gaining him championship points by keeping Volodya behind, it's allowing him to have a clear view of De Fronzo in front and allow him maybe to go for the move for second place in the AM. So he's going to want to try and keep a clear mind, but also in his position, just let him go. Let Volodya do the hard work for you. Maybe open the gap up that you can follow through to get the move done on De Fronzo. But definitely for Borelli, he's got no obligation to allow Volodya through. He's not you know, not going to get a penalty for not letting him through. It's not what he wants to do. And if Velogia was quick enough, I'm sure he would have found a way through. But look at that. That is the Fronzo not getting the best of runs off Shell Oils and into Britain's. Borelli is closing the gap, and oh, there we go, a little bit wide, and surely that's going to see Velogia through.
Oh, nearly. It was a very opportunistic move. Oh, I think that's Salvanecci. He's had a bit of an off at Britain's himself. So he's not found a good way through there at the moment, but Velogia, he's still stuck behind Borelli at the moment. There's Carlara and I think Morton, or is that Nick Stick? No, that's Nick Stick making his way past Carlara at the moment. I think, no, it is Morton. This timing tower, as much as I've got experience with it now, but it's still so baffling to me sometimes of how difficult it is to tell what's going on. But Kyler, oh, that's huge! What's happened there? Hamling and Fleety have come together. Eligna's going to be off free at the front to get himself away. I'm hoping we can see a replay of that, because that's a huge moment, Zach.
Big moment. That was the race defining, and Guillaume Hamling maybe even championship defining as well. That was the last thing that he would have wanted to see, particularly with Jamie Nuttall inheriting second place. We are going to take another look as to what happened. There is Sam Fleety, a little bit out of shape was the Lamborghini, tagged both of them off at the fastest point of the circuit. Well, Guillaume Hamling, that is going to be the moment when we get to Donington Park, on the last lap of Donington Park. This is the moment he's going to look back on in such regret.
Yeah, he will. Not the place to go drifting at the Cascades. And Guillaume Hamling proving that you can't be drifting around that corner. And he took Sam Fleety out with him as well. Jamie Nuttall's now free to sit in P2, start chasing down Eligna to maybe get himself in the front. And well, we spoke about Hamling's consistency, but it seems to have fallen off there. And Velogia, he's trying to make some moves once again, looking to the inside of Druids as they make their way through. He's finally got himself past Borelli and clear of that other Ferrari. Now he's going to continue his chase at the moment, and he'll have a few more targets to add to his list if he can catch them. But there's 12 minutes left of this race, Zach, and well, not a lot has happened as far as battles have gone, but there's some big championship implications that have come around because of Hamling's incident.
Yeah, it was an avoidable one, but an easy one to make on behalf of Hamling. I mean, it's always tricky. It's a tricky circuit. We knew it was going to claim victims, and that is, you know, what they sign up for coming here today. But again, as I say, fortunately, he has got that second place to fall back on. So I'm assuming, because of the half points of the split between race 1 and race 2, today is going to be his drop week, which essentially means that today he finished second, which is fine. It just means that going into Valencia and Donington Park, he then has to make sure that he does deliver. But still some good points, in all fairness. If it is the case, even if he comes out of this with second place points, it's going to help him and could well be the saving grace in the championship fight. Here is Jack Southwood on the back of Sir Smokey, and well, this is a fight for the podium, one that both of them would be looking quite keen on getting.
Yeah, certainly, and we've seen plenty of battles between Southfield and Smokey in our time, so this could be quite an electric one. But don't count Fleety out. He's not too far back from everybody. Oh, and that's a big incident. That's Chumley and James Wright coming together at Lodge at the moment. I look like what might have happened was Wright had an incident and Chumley just sort of got collected in it. That was an odd one to sort of switch back over to, but more action among the pros. They're not afraid to trade bodywork, trade paintwork around here.
Yeah, no, they're getting quite argy-bargy, but I guess you're really forced to in some cases because of how tight Oulton Park is. You know, sometimes it just naturally is going to happen, especially when the circumstances are like this. Going to take another look as to how it happened. Samuel Chumley, late dive. It wasn't enough of a dive, though, was it, versus James Wright? It was... It would have been a great move if he just pulled a little bit more to the right before committing, because then James Wright, his car was there and smack, and unfortunately he just got tapped around, which is a shame, but completely Samuel Chumley's fault. Unfortunately, he was quite aggressive, But in the end of it, it was the fact that he wasn't aggressive enough that saw the end of both of their races.
Yeah, but the crowd certainly didn't look impressed after that replay. But yeah, I mean, it might be one for the stewards to scratch their heads over for the moment. But we'll carry on with this battle at the minute. And it looks like Jack Southfield, he does have a bit of a measure over Smokey at the moment. He got a great exit out of Lodge and got that little bit closer. But Smokey's just doing enough to keep him at bay. And well, Smokey's no slouch when it comes to operating a race car. So he's definitely gonna give Jack Southfield a run for his money in this fight for the remaining places on the podium. But you know, a driver of Jack Southfield's ability, I'm sure this pass, it may not come easy for him, but it certainly won't be something he lets go.
By no stretch of the imagination. 8 minutes 40 seconds left to go. The top two places vastly undecided. Dominic Ligner has managed to control it. Jamie Nartal has also managed to creep his way up in the second place. But Sir Smokey, Jack Southfield, as Andrew Pike said, he is so small, he's bound to be faster. It's a shame that he can't quite see over the steering wheel. Got to whack in a good old booster seat, but at least with the pedal extensions and the booster seat, he has done a good job at handling that Porsche GT3 RS, I think is the official name for it. No, it's the Porsche 992 GT3. Which, yeah, because ACC is a little bit special. But, yeah, going through Druids at the moment and putting some pressure on to Sir Smokey just in front. But, yeah, I don't know. I can never really tell the difference between all the Porsches. They look amazing, but I can't ever tell if it's a 911, 912, 992, blah, 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 blah. There's so many different nines, and they all look relatively the same.
Yeah, I think that's my problem with Porsche as a supercar manufacturer. I suppose they all just look the same, don't they? Like they've all got. I mean, I suppose it's important in terms of a branding perspective, but there's not much differentiating a 911 from another Porsche make. You know, a 992 or whatever number you want to throw behind it at the moment. And I don't know, I've just never really been a fan of Porsche, to be honest, Zach. It's been I never have. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't know, I don't like them.
That is disgraceful. Honestly, I cannot believe I've ever associated myself with you after that. That is a disgusting comment. Absolutely disgraceful. Porsche, they sound amazing, they look amazing. It's the peak of German manufacturing. Honestly, I would love to get myself a Porsche 911 GT3 RS. They look so good. But no, not in the eyes of Kelsey Gill, who is... I don't even know. There's not a word that describes how disgusted I am at the moment, because...
It's a hot take, Zach, hot take.
How can you not like Porsche? This is disgraceful stuff. It's not as bad, though. A broadcast the other day, one of the Ivra GT Sprint things on Race Sport TV. They one of the commentators, I think it was Noah J. Rampler's, wide goes the McLaren. He one of the commentators had said, I'm going to sound really stupid for this. I'm quoting him. I'm going to sound really stupid for this. Is Porsche German or Italian? And then he stopped talking, and he is never ever going to live that down, essentially. So it's not as bad as mistaking which brands are which, but to say that Porsche is not a good sports car brand is absolutely despicable. I don't know how you can live with yourself knowing that you've just said such a sinful sentence. That is, I don't know. I want to go back to commentating on my own on this, I'll be honest. It's disgusting, Kelsey.
Oh, well, it's not that bad, you know. Having an opinion is no
You're allowed
crime
an
at all.
opinion, just don't make it be wrong.
Not a wrong one. No, I've just never liked Porsche. Let's be honest here. They all look the same, and that's, you know, there's not much differentiation between a lot of them. Well, I will say one thing that might save me is some of the older Porsches, like 80s, 90s Porsches. I do like the look of those, but if I'm talking about modern day, they're just not the cars for me. They're not the cars for me, as you say. You're actually ashamed in the chat. Well, you know, Zach, I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to stand by my hot take. You know, I even like that Honda more than the Porsche, to be honest.
Yeah, that's not that big of a hot take. The Honda NSX does look like a nice car. Who is going to come out on top though? Porsche versus Honda. Sam Fleety looking to the outside, trying to get the up and under. Is it going to work into the Cascades as you dip your way downhill? Not quite able to get that car alongside. Speaking of hot takes, I guess I'll give mine. I don't like SUV supercars. I don't like the Urus. I don't like the Porsche SUV. I don't like any one that BMW have done. I just don't like the look of supercar SUVs. They just look horrible. They look as if they're just trying too hard to be an Aventador, and they're not an Aventador. They should look like a Land Rover, but they don't. My friends have been like, Zach, you've got disgusting tasting cars to not like the Urus, and it is probably one of the worst cars I think I've ever seen. So your hot take is you don't like Porsches. My hot take is I do not like SUVs because they're just not nice cars. If you're gonna splash out 100 grand for a car, get a good one.
Yeah, I think I agree on that one. There's some SUVs that look pretty nice out there. I'll tell you what, I used to work in a car park, and what I used to see sometimes on a weekend, there'd be some drivers people who would come in, I suppose, with their supercars. And I remember there's one Mercedes. I can't remember which one it was. It looked a lot like the car that Sir Smogey's driving right now, but it was a very vibrant sort of emerald green colour. And I was like, if I was going to have a car, that one would be one that I wouldn't say no to, as Jack Southfield is trying to pull alongside Sir Smokey now. Oh, there's a bit of contact between the two of them as they go along, as we're on this tangent of supercars, and there's almost a super calamity between the two of them, but lucky to both be on the circuit still as they go along. This fight for P3 is not letting up, and we've got 2.5 minutes left, so I'd say we've got about 2 more laps of racing.
We do indeed. Searching for the gap is Jack Southfield, trying to use his size to try and squeeze that Porsche through the gaps. It's not quite good enough to see himself onto the podium as of yet, but who knows what could happen. Marie Striker versus Sam Fleety as well. Fleety needs to strike while the iron is still hot, being told from Andrew Pike. And well, speaking of puns, supercar, super calamity, and you've got Marie Striker in his striking livery, and maybe the strike coming from Sam Fleety as well, who has been putting him under a ton of pressure. Good races from Felix Cheff and Elias Troyer, by the way. Cheff and Troyer well ahead of their closest rival in the silver class, and quite close onto the back of the front runners of the pros as well, hopping over the dust. It looked like Lightning McQueen on the new road in cars when he just repaved the road for the first time, rushed it through. That is exactly what it looked like, but not quite the way that Italian livery Porsche would have wanted to negotiate his way through, as Marie Striker definitely feeling the pressure now coming on to the penultimate lap, final lap of this race. And well, Sam Fleety is breathing down the neck of him, but with each corner that goes by, it's one less opportunity he has to find his way up into the top 5.
Yeah, certainly so. And just a quick word. You might be wondering where Samuel Chumley's gone. I think he's had a power cut, so he's out of this session. That is a shame for him. Another casualty of sim racing troubles. But Sal Vanecci, he's making his way through. He's trying to get his way past De Fronzo at the moment. Not a fight for position in terms of championship, but on the road, and some respect between drivers at the minute. But we've not got very long left at the moment. Where are our leaders? Where are the pros in this race? There he is. There's Dominic Aligna, who's been leading this race very well from the start all the way to what is soon to be the finish of this race. He's coming down towards where is he on the... I did have him for 1 second. There he is. He's coming down towards Druids for the final time. This could be... Oh, I don't know. It's going to be close, Zach. Is it the final lap? I don't know. It is. It must be. Surely, yeah. With 15 seconds, yeah. It's going to be the final lap then. So Dominic Aligna has had a great race. He's controlled the pace from the start all the way on. Round Lodge for the final time. And it is going to be Dominic Aligna back on the top step here in... TSRC GT3 at the moment. It's Dominic Aligna, then Jamie Nuttall coming across the line for P2 at the moment, and Jack Southfield. Zaki's got himself ahead of Sir Smokey, and he's on the podium for this race. And Smokey coming home in P4, there's Striker 5, Fleety 6, then Chef coming home to win for the second time in this sprint round at the moment. A great job from Felix Jeff. Then Elias Troy second for your Silvers. Hamling going to come home in P number 9. Then we've got Wright and Violetto and Volodja. Then we're watching Redovid, the winner for the AMS at the moment. He's making his way around in his Ferrari car number 82, Round Lodge, for the final time for himself, and that is going to be your winner for the AMS, as long as he makes no mistakes going in a straight line. He doesn't flash in the lights in celebration, of course. And I think we've had 2 great races around this circuit, Zach, and well, Oulton Park is definitely a track that I've enjoyed as the first time here.
Oh, absolutely. You know, sometimes you always look forward to your first time. Sometimes it disappoints, but definitely not here at Oulton Park. It was a brilliant display of racing action and a great introduction here for the circuit in terms of MSV club style circuits around the UK. Oulton Park never disappoints. No matter what you throw around the circuit, it was brilliant. And the number of puns coming in on the YouTube chat, we won't be able to read them out on broadcast, both because of time and James wouldn't be very happy with me, so we won't, but we do appreciate them nonetheless. Very, very funny stuff. I still am laughing, so thank you to Stu for jumping in and giving us the fantastic insight. And well, what a race it has been from Felix Cheff, from Elias Troyer, from obviously Dominic Aligna out in front. Brilliant couple of races there. The qualifying session as well was sensational. 3 great sessions and, well, a successful round number 4.
Yeah, for certain, and yeah, we definitely can't say some of those puns out. I've just had a glance over the chat. We went from you know, crickets in the live chat to it all exploding toward the end of this sprint round. But well, what a round it's been. We've seen some great fights. We've seen some drivers who have really put it together this evening. You know, just nice to see Dominic Aligna back up there on the top step. He belongs there, of course. And let's run through the grid then for one final time this evening. It's Dominic Aligna coming home to win the pros race here for race number 2. Then Jamie Nuttall and Jack Southwood make up your podium for the pros. Then Sir Smoggy, Maurice Stryker and Samuel Fleety make up the top 6. Felix Sheff and Elias Troy your podium for the silvers, with the former being your winner in that category, with Guillaume Hamling and James Wright gapping Violetto, who is the 3rd place driver in this standing. Then we've got Volodja and Redovid and De Fronzo. They're part of your podium for the AMS. And there's Salvanecci, Morton and Borelli who are going to round that off. Then we have Zampieri, Kailara, Nick Stick, Romanoli, Giard in P number 22. Then we got Paul Sims, McGowan, Cisco, Gemello, Chumley, Miglioli, Cockle, Angel and Wells making up the rest of the grid, and some of the drivers who didn't finish the race. But Zach, well, sprint rounds are always exciting. It's always some drama, and I'd say we've had a lot of that this evening. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Drama, chaos, excitement. Oulton Park delivered it all. But in a week's time, we go into a bit of an unknown with Valencia. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Penultimate round of the season. Just with each race, each session, this field of drivers gets that ever stronger. And, well, again, as much as I don't want the season to end, I'm so looking forward to seeing its conclusion.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conclusion, and if you've seen all the seasons prior, you know what we're in for here with TSRC GT3. But that's about going to do it for everything tonight as far as racing. I'm sure there's plenty more racing to go on JP Broadcasting. I think it's the Radical Race Series. I think that's on tonight as well. I need to get myself a bit more well versed in that, but I'll stop rambling on and round things off. Join us next week at for the same time for Valencia, an unknown, of course. But for now, I have been Kelsey Gill, it has been Zach Sweeney, and it has been Kieran Sharp, and we all wish you a very, very warm good night.